Let's go make a killing.
All right.
Welcome to the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
10 to the 5 to the 4, play one, touchdown!
The sharpest football contest show in the land.
I'll take the action. My Birds, Benjamin Franklin's team, favored by 1.5 points. I'll give you 3 more.
You're now riding shotgun with 2 former contest winners in Brady, Kannon and James Salinas. And getting a former player's perspective with 9-year NFL veteran Mike Pritchard.
Let's go!
As they guide you through strategy, process, and your contest picks each and every week of the season.
I do like the idea of a parlay.
Now here's your host, Brady Kannon.
Here we are, everybody. It is week 3, episode 5, season 2 of the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, presented by none other than our friends at Circus Sports and the Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Welcome back in. Let's take a look at the landscape of these contests in Las Vegas. Boy, it has been polar opposites if you're trying to pick against the spread versus what you're doing in Survivor Contest. The consensus picks in SuperContest and Circa Million combined through the first 2 weeks, 3-17. We have gone 2-3 in each of our first 2 weeks, and yes, we are well ahead of the pack. Only 156 entries in the SuperContest out of 751 entries are above 500. So if you are treading water or above 500, you are looking good right now. A record low rate of elimination in Survivor Contests. 107 of the 111 remain in Super Survivor. Only less than 1,200 have been eliminated from Circa Survivor. 9.4% eliminated through 2 weeks. And then finally, Grandissimo, just 1 entry eliminated out of the original 69. Also, SuperContest College, a lot of our friends at the top of the leaderboard here. Bill was 17.5 points out of a possible 21. He leads. Maybe that's Bill Krakenberger. I'm not sure. Crooklyn Bala, Noah Parker, he's in there. The Grinch, Ken Thompson, he's up there. Fezzik, Steve Fezzik with 14.5 points. Mike Peranio, our old friend, the vice president of race and sportsbook at the Mandalay Bay. Stevie the Pencil, the Hall of Famer Richie Bocciolari from Circa. Bear Bets, I got to believe that's Chris Felica. And then our friend Dave Tooley, View from Vegas at 13.5 points in SuperContest College. Gentlemen, here we are. Let's move over to the NFL. Let's try and get after it and beat that consensus once again. Let's start at the top of the board. Those red-hot Indianapolis Colts, they're going to go on the road for the first time this year, and they're laying points, 4 points at Tennessee, who's looking for their first win of the season, James.
Well, I don't think they get it here, even though I don't want to bet the Colts, the divisional favorite on the road. All of a sudden now Colts looking great. First week playing Miami, and I think Miami will boost up a lot of stats for any team that plays them throughout the rest of the season. But really impressed last week with Steichen in the game plan going in with Daniel Jones. That was not expected for me coming into the season for Daniel Jones and how well he's performed. In particular, that game last week against a really stout defense from the Denver Broncos. I think they just outcoached them. I think that's Joseph on the defensive side, defensive coordinator for Denver, got outcoached in that matchup, and they never had an answer. They never were able to really try to counter what the Colts were doing. And great balance, throwing the football, ball on the ground, rushing the football back again with that offensive line and Jonathan Taylor. I just think on this side here, Pritch, for me, with the Colts now having to turn, getting on the road and being a favorite within division, it's a hungry team right now. I think they have plenty to prove. They definitely proved it last week. I don't know, what does the Titans have to prove other than at this point, Pritch? This is a team offensively. They are worst in the league when it comes to pre-snap penalties. 11 sacks taken so far in the young season for Cam Ward, the young quarterback there for Tennessee. It's going to be, I think it's going to have to be the defense for the Titans to try to figure out a way to contain the Colts. But I really don't want to lay 4 on the road in a divisional matchup, Pritch.
Yeah, that's tough to lay 4. First of all, do you guys have nicknames? I mean, I heard the pencil. I heard all these nicknames for the gamblers, man. We had nicknames in the locker room. I want to know if you guys have nicknames.
Pritch, is that what they called you? Pritch?
Sure.
I know this is a family betting show, Pritch. I can't tell you what my street nickname is. I'm growing up here in the north side. So we'll I know I'm not very fluent in Spanish. I know all the bad words, and that was one of the big things. So we'll leave that off for the family betting.
Okay. Well, at least you guys have them. That's cool to know. Yeah, it's a tough number to lay in the division. First road game too, with the Colts. Now, going into the year, I was high on the Colts. I thought they could be an outlier team this year, just because it's so important for a quarterback to really understand and be comfortable with an offense. And I thought Daniel Jones was going back to college with this offense from Shane Steichen. I mean, it's so friendly. And the comparison that I was looking at in offseason was Alex Smith. And so Alex Smith was just that steady player in the National Football League before that horrific injury, as we all know about. But he was somebody that can operate this style of offense. And to me, that was Daniel Jones. And there's another element. He hasn't been featured as a runner that's 6 eligible. So I wonder when the Colts actually get to that, because they do have the running game revved up. They do have the short passing game revved up. They do have a lot of confidence in Daniel Jones right now. So I wonder at what point will Shane Steichen give him more offense. And then on the other side, defensively, Anarumo has been a breath of fresh air after Gus Bradley. But even though I'm high on the Colts, the Titans trying to figure things out with a new quarterback, really a new head coach situation, and some players that just not all on the same page right now. So it is a tough one to be confident with, even though I am high on the Colts still.
Guys, it feels like week 2 is always overreaction week. And for me, this week 3 feels like public perception week. We feel that the Titans are 0-2 and they're god awful. Our next game here, Atlanta at Carolina 0-2. The Panthers look awful. Now, we really don't know a lot about these teams just yet. We've only seen them for 2 weeks. So I think you really have to be careful here in week 3. And I think that Colts-Titans game is one of those. I think there's a lot of games on the board this week, where you have a team that we perceive as not very good against a team that we perceive as pretty decent. It feels like maybe we'll finally get some carnage this week in Survivor Contest, what have you. We will see. I like the Falcons in this game. They looked good in their last outing, a win over Minnesota. I think, again, we'll see if we're right about how bad Carolina is. But, James, this is a situation that is risky business because you have a desperate 0-2 team going up against a team that is 1-1 on the season, and it's also a division road game. Those situations, the last 10 years, the dog covers over 70% of the time.
I'm really there's only one side for me to play, and it would be the Panther side taking that number at home. You mentioned the desperation, also the familiarity, right? With we saw that late in the season last year, Falcons needing to get that win, and the Panthers on the road in Atlanta being able to take that down in overtime, played really well offensively. I think that was really I think maybe some of that momentum, or at least perception. You talked about perception for week 3, public perception. Maybe that was a perception of folks coming in high on the Carolina Panthers to start the season, but it's been a tough start. I mean, this from a scheduling standpoint, they've covered the entire country so far, Pritch. First game on the road at Jacksonville, hot, humid. You know how those conditions are in the opening weeks of the season when you're playing in Florida. Then go on the other end of the West Coast, having to go out to play Arizona. Really struggled, fell behind in that game until a number of corners. Basically, they lost their starting 3 corners in that second half to the Arizona Cardinals, and that allowed Young to be able to come in and get in the back door for the Panthers in that matchup here. So I think this is a game that we can consider. Thinking about the Panthers, I don't want to have anything to do with the Falcons going back on the road as this divisional road favorite here in Carolina, Pritch.
Yeah, this game has been wonky for a lot of reasons. I mean, over the years, too, with the history of the matchup with these two teams. Atlanta is interesting because they're 50-50 play selection, right? So they're 50% run, 50% pass, taking pressure off of Penix, but also they're featuring that short passing game. But Bijan Robinson is a guy. And then defensively, I think Atlanta is improved with that rush and up front. But this is a tough number to lay on the road inside Division II. And you mentioned teams that are desperate. This time of year, you do not want to go 0-3, because if you go 0-3, all of a sudden, your season is pretty much over. You can get back in it. The Chargers kind of did that years ago when they were 0-4. But 0-3 starts just makes that hill that much more steep to climb out there for your football team.
Yeah, Carolina will be interesting to see if they finally show up this week. Another good one, we have a 2-0 Green Bay Packers team visiting an 0-2 Cleveland Browns team. We'll touch on that one when we return right here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Las Vegas isn't just a place to play, it's a great place to live. Louis Payon with Magenta Real Estate is a trusted 5-star real estate professional who's called Vegas home for over 3 decades. Whether you're looking to buy or sell, Louis will guide you every step of the way with proven strategies that deliver results. Call Louis today at 702-849-7160. That's 702-849-7160. Louis Payon is the official realtor of the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Want to enter the biggest and best football contests in Las Vegas? Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed. Covering Circa Million, Circa Survivor, Grandissimo, and every Super Contest at the Westgate Superbook. Reserve the most trusted proxy service in the business now at footballcontest.com. Maddie and Tony have been leaders in the industry for 20 years. They submit your picks while you focus on picking winners. Experience matters. Go with the pros at footballcontest.com and start winning now.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circa Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Brady, Kannon, James Salinas, and Mike Pritchard here with you, and we have made our way to Cleveland, where the 0-2 Browns will face the red-hot Green Bay Packers, everybody's darling that has become, one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl after just a couple of weeks in their acquisition of Micah Parsons. They come in on extra rest here off of a win last Thursday night, laying 7.5 points in both contests. In the live market, I have seen it come down to 7. And the Browns coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Baltimore Ravens there in division. Pritch, what do you make of this one?
Well, yeah, the Packers are looking great, right? The addition of Micah Parsons too doesn't hurt at all. And I think what they're doing defensively is really impressive. And then it's complementary to what they want to be at the end of the year offensively. They're 50-50 again, running the football. Josh Jacobs, they got a powerful offensive line, a powerful runner. And then Love, he's got to take a next step. I think Troy Aikman talked about this, elevating his game. If certainly the Packers are looking at entertaining winning a Super Bowl. So there's some inconsistency there with Jordan Love. And I mean that by the fact that on third down, they are lacking converting on third down, just 40% so far in the early year. Now, just 2 games, I get that. But they have committed and they were able to get the big play, which has helped them as well. Now they're facing a defense that is really, really good. They got some good personnel over there. They got some disruptors over there, Myles Garrett and all these guys. So that could be an interesting matchup. Is laying 7.5. I've learned over the years from you sharps that don't look at 7.5 and be fair. Don't think of that number kindly. That's the enemy. Really. So I don't want anything to do with it, even though, Green Bay, would they be a survivor pick? We'll get into that a little bit later. But laying 7.5 on the road against Cleveland with that feisty defense and an offense that can convert. They're up to about 50%, converting on third down. So this is a tricky matchup for me, guys. James, what do you think?
I think this is when it's all said and done, this will be that public head scratcher game where everybody's like, how the hell did the Packers lose to one of the worst teams in all of football, the Cleveland Browns? That's how the NFL sets up sometimes. The more I think about it, the more we talk through that, we kind of talk through these games, and sometimes we can come to a consensus or it's a little divisive. So I think in this matchup here, this is just the scheduling spot for the Packers. Yes, they played well tremendous for the first 2 weeks, but now having to go a non-conference game on the road to a Cleveland team. Pritchie mentioned it, how they got embarrassed last week against Baltimore. There's a lot of ballers there and some dogs on that defensive side. I think they show up this weekend at home against Cleveland. Not sure if they actually pull out the win because from this standpoint, Flacco is just, when is he going to get pulled? He's not going to be able to last too many more times in that pocket. So they have no running game. That's the biggest concern for me offensively. No running game. It's all on Flacco to have to make plays, not making it happen offensively, Brady. But here with this defense showing up and with a big game on deck next week at the Dallas Cowboys, do the Packers play? I like the spot here plus the 7.5 with the Browns.
Yeah, Micah Parsons returns to his former employer, the Dallas Cowboys, next week. That has got to be on people's minds in Green Bay. All right, we have an interesting matchup here in Minnesota. No starting quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, of course, out, and J.J. McCarthy also out for the Minnesota Vikings. James, Minnesota laying 3 points to the Bengals and Jake Browning at home.
And that's where it is. I mean, it's thinking about Jake Browning with this team and the Bengals. He's had a number of starts. It was a couple of years ago, 2023. I think he was 4-3 as a starter. Played really well. Now, he'd got tremendous targets to be able to throw the football to for the Bengals and Browning. The struggle right now has been rushing the football, and really that starts up front. There's another reason why Burrow is back on the injured list again. Now he's going to have a problem with his toe and have surgery with it. We've seen it throughout his career because they've invested in all the skill spots and the edge rushers. They haven't put any money into that offensive line, at least not smart money going into the offensive line, and that's been the problem. Last week, watching that game in the first 3 quarters against Jacksonville, it was constant duress for Burrow, and it's been that way throughout his career. Nothing's changed going into the season, but on the other side now, it's going to be Carson Wentz coming back in. He just got picked up in August, coming off. He really didn't play much of anything. He's thrown 43 passes, has Carson Wentz, over the course of the last 2 seasons. I think this is a really tough matchup for a Vikings team that struggled offensively. Their offensive line is really banged up. I don't think their center Kelly is going to play either, not to mention their tackles and a guard. They've got a lot of issues up front, Pritch, and I think from that standpoint, I'd be more inclined to lean with the Bengals here and Browning because I think we know what we're going to get offensively from Cincinnati.
Yeah, continuity right there with Browning and those 2 outstanding playmakers that they have on the outside for the Bengals. You know, both of these teams run the same offense. You know, it's part of that McVay tree, right, with O'Connell, and certainly what the Bengals have done over the years. I called them the Rams East, certainly when they went to the Super Bowl not too long ago. But this was interesting. I mean, you mentioned the running game, James, and I got into this discussion with some guys in the league right now, coaching and certainly upstairs in the front office, in terms of you can't practice power running games in training camp because you don't want to get guys hurt. You don't want to get guys nicked up and banged up. So a lot of teams, you see them running inside and outside zone, right? Try to create that flow and then give that running back a 3-way go, if you will, at the line of scrimmage. So both of these teams are trying to do that. I don't know if the Vikings are ahead of them right now a little bit. I think they're ranked 20th, whereas the Bengals are almost dead last rushing the football. That gets tough in that environment too. So this is a tough one in terms of which way to play it. I think the Vikings with Carson Wentz will be interesting, but with the continuity factor, I'm gravitating towards the Bengals, but it is a tough number though.
I've heard that it is one of the least popular bet games at sports books around the country this week. And for obvious reasons, you know, there's no quarterback to kind of hang your hat on, and a lot of mystery and a lot of question marks in this game. Mike, I'll come back to you real quick while we've got another minute. A good game, the game of the week, the Rams and the Eagles, a rematch from last year's divisional playoff game where it went all the way to the bitter end. The Rams had a chance to win it in the snow. They're getting 3.5. What do you think of this one?
You know, I like the Rams in this one, guys. Yeah, they're a good football team. Okay, they go travel against across the country and certainly play a familiar opponent. I'm not a big revenge guy because there's nothing to play for in this regard, but this game, other than to help your season and to pass another quiz, if you will. But I think the Rams are starting to click. Think about Matthew Stafford, didn't even play all preseason. And so they're starting to get revved up. And there's some great matchups on the edges, I think, that favor the Rams as well.
Sean McVay just working magic once again. This guy is proving year in and year out that he is really one of the best coaches in the game. When we come back, we will turn our attention to more games here, including the Pittsburgh Steelers and their trip to New England, right here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Looking for your next ultimate golf experience? Discover Valley High Golf Club, a tropical paradise on the Las Vegas Strip, featuring lush greenery, water features, Balinese tropical plants, white sand, and black volcanic rock, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Valley High creates a memorable golf experience for a typical foursome, a group celebrating a bachelor or bachelorette party, or your next corporate outing. It's award-winning golf on the Strip, Vegas style. Book your ultimate golf experience now at valleyhighgolfclub.com.
Okay, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1-1, coming off of a loss at home. They will travel to visit the New England Patriots, who were also 1-1. Mike Vrabel and company getting their first win last week in division over the Miami Dolphins. The Pittsburgh Steelers laying 1.5 here, and this is a game none of us really know what to do here. I kind of lean towards the Steelers. I think they might be the better team, but what we've noticed, this team cannot stop the run. And in my opinion, that is what New England really has to lean on with a lot of young players and not a ton of weapons on offense. They lean on Ramondre Stevenson, the former Las Vegas product, and run that ball. And if they're able to do that successfully against Pittsburgh, they could absolutely be in this game. And the odds makers are telling us this one's going to be close. We're going to stay away from this one, but a very interesting contest, the home opener in Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield off another heroic performance on Monday night. They welcome the New York Jets to town, James, and the Buccaneers are off and running to a 2-0 start. They're facing the 0-2 Jets. And oh, by the way, the Buccaneers not only facing a lot of injury on their roster, but they will take on the Philadelphia Eagles next week in a big matchup.
Think about, sometimes the schedule makers are really interesting how they do this. They did this last year too to the Tampa Bay Bucks. They hosted Philadelphia in week 4 and they put it on Philly in week 4 last year. And they played a home game prior to that. They had come off 2 big wins. They had won at Washington, they won at Detroit. Then they came home and it's lowly Denver and rookie quarterback Nix. And yeah, we're going to look ahead to Philly. Well, guess who went in there and put it on the Bucs in that game? It was the Denver Broncos, and they won that game from start to finish handily. There was one team that was hungry and there was another team that was kind of fat and happy looking ahead. Feel like this is kind of similar, especially thinking about the first 2 games that we've seen from Tampa. You're talking about high leverage games coming down to the basically last week on Monday Night Football, almost the last second, coming through with that last second win over the Houston Texans, as well as nearly the last few seconds in that win late against the Atlanta Falcons. Very physical game, in particular last week against Houston. And you've seen that the offensive line is completely tattered right now. A lot of different players and backups having to step in there. They're missing one of their pass rushers up front. Now the young Ibeka Mokafor, I'm probably mispronounced his name, but the young kid from Ohio State who's looked really good, he has not practiced this week either. This just feels like a really flat spot in the schedule for the Tampa Bay Bucks, and it's on the other side, Pritch here with the Jets, and this feels like another one of those head scratchers. How did the Jets show up and come into play? Well, I think there's still some dogs on that defense who got embarrassed last week against division rival Bills. They're looking to take it out on somebody, and it's going to be a really bad front right now for Tampa, and you're looking at the quarterback side, who's also a little banged up there in Baker Mayfield, who's played his heart out, Pritch. But I think this is a tough spot right now, scheduling wise, for the Bucks. I like the Jets plus the 7.5.
Yeah, the Bucks are fortunate to have Baker. I mean, 2-0 because of Baker, to be honest with you. But this is a game where the Jets go on the road. They get out of New York or New Jersey, and then they go on the road and they kind of band together. I mean, that's Aaron Glenn in a nutshell, really. As he's trying to establish an identity with this football team. Fields goes down. Tyrod Taylor, I think, is going to be the starter. But what do they feature? Both teams feature a sound running game. We're top 10 right now, rushing the football and passing the football. A little bit of a struggle. Even though Tampa has won, I still go back to my feeling of Tampa in that division and how it's an underachieving division. So at some point they're going to underachieve, and maybe, like you said, James, this is one of those spot games where you don't back them. I mean, the Jets are primed to go on the road and put it all together and play a solid game, not rely on a passing game offensively, run the football, be physical like Aaron Glenn wants to do, and then kind of pick your spots defensively against Baker when he does want to throw it. But the injuries right there, like you mentioned, I think both of these teams are going to go back to the basics and really try to run the football and be more physical. Therefore, I believe the Jets have a chance to get inside this number as well.
Yeah, pretty big number there to lay for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We will see so many games this week where you have that desperate 0-2 team against a team that is either 1-1 or 2-0, and another situation here in Jacksonville. We've really liked the Jaguars for the first couple weeks. I think they're a good squad. They face another pretty decent squad hosting a desperate 0-2 Houston Texans team, James. I think this is a tough nut to crack here. I'm not sure we're going back to the window with the Jaguars again this week.
No, not with with the Jaguars here. I don't want to have to go against the Texan team, but we talked about it in week 1 with the Texans. We were all over the Rams, taking the Rams, laying the number as well as in Survivor. The issue is up front. The Texans offensive line is one of the worst in football, not only from a personnel standpoint, but from an injury standpoint too. Not having Joe Mixon in there and the toughness that he brings really makes them one-dimensional. And we haven't seen the Texans be able to throw the football. I mean, it looks like the offense looks like, hey guys, it was drawing things in the dirt. You guys go deep, and I'll fire the bomb. And CJ Stroud is getting a licking because of that. And this is not an offense that I want to bet on right now, even though they are a desperate team, Brady, with the Texans having to go on the road. Not a play for me. This is a stay away game, both sides.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one to figure out. I like Jacksonville, but the situation, I believe, heavily favors Houston. It is Survivor Talk. When we come back, we shift to Survivor Contest when we return right here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Steiner's, a Nevada-style pub, invites you to play the best Keno and video poker in Las Vegas. Promos are how we roll, so make the most of your gaming dollars with ongoing promotions, daily free play, bonuses, and more. With a chance to win Knights, Raiders, Aviators tickets, and big money with all those jackpots. It's not only great gaming at Steiner's, it's the 24 awesome rotating draft beers and the best appetizers to match. Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub, with 3 locations across the Vegas Valley. Steiner's, I love this place.
Check us out on social media at footballcontestshow.com, online, footballcontestshow.com. That is the website. You can find all the information you need there. Our picks each and every week, our results, where to find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff you can find on our website, footballcontestshow.com. Brady Kannon, Mike Pritchard, and James Salinas with you on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, presented by Circa Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Time to shift over to Survivor Contest strategy. And we have 2 Survivor contests here in town. Super Survivor at the Superbook, and then, of course, Circa Survivor. And there are differences. And I think this week is very interesting because of those differences. In Circa, you have to deal with Thanksgiving and Christmas. Not the case in Super Survivor. So in Super Survivor, you can take the Chiefs, you can take the Ravens, you can take the Packers. In Circa Survivor, you can take those teams, but you won't have them available for those holiday possible selections. So, Mike, interesting strategy depending on which contest you're playing in Survivor this week.
Yeah, I mean, through 2 weeks, you think about how well favorites have done. But really, how well have they done? I mean, I know, okay, on paper, the end result, Dallas Cowboys. So, but how did they win that game, right? Which was incredible. And then you go with Arizona as well last week, and how they almost gave that game away. I mean, when you think about surefire favorites, it's those teams that dominate and certainly play well at home, and rightly so. I think there's 2 elite teams in the National Football League right now, and they face each other in week 1, and that's Baltimore and Buffalo. I think everybody else, they have issues that they still need to work through, and that's 30 teams to think about, right? So Survivor gets interesting on where people are going to go this week in particular, as I believe the bulk of the NFL are just about even, and teams are going to start to match up and play each other, and more film. And so those games just get so much interesting to me. And then you throw in, like you mentioned, Brady, about holiday games. I'm one that says you got to get there, right? And so I think when you get to that point of the contest, in my experience with the contest, and certainly over the last few years as we covered it, it's dicey once you get there. So Thanksgiving and Christmas is interesting. And yes, you want to save and you want to make sure that you're alive with some solid plays, some solid entries, some solid teams. But you might be in a situation where, okay, look, I have to get there, and these games are getting tougher and tougher. So I think people might look at these home favorites, and whether it was Buffalo last night, or whether it's the Chiefs on the road, whether the Packers on the road, even. I mean, those are some teams that I think some people are going to be interested in for Survivor. Seattle, for instance, at home. I know that's going to be a popular pick, but Seattle offensively, they have some room for improvement. I'll just say that. And similar to the Saints. Now, what gives me confidence with Seattle at home is that because the Saints can't execute well, and certainly playing at home with a new offense, new head coach, all this new system stuff, now they got to take that to the 12s up there in Seattle in that loud environment. So I know that they're not executing very well. How do you simplify things, and how do you be able to help you guys on the field be able to execute? Those are things you can do, but then now you're going up against a tough defense too in that environment. So from a Survivor standpoint, Seattle looks highly attractive, and to be honest with you guys, more attractive than the Packers on the road, and certainly the Chiefs and how they're playing on the road as well. James, what do you think about the Survivor situation this week?
It's only week 3. Doesn't it feel like Survivor is just, we're into week 10 already with these games? I mean, especially what we're thinking about how some of these games have come down, in particular Dallas last week. We had one of our entries on the Cowboys and having to hit 64 yarders just to stay in the game and tie the game. And Russell Wilson finally cooking the ball back in overtime, throwing it to the wrong football team like we've seen him do over the last few years. I think because we are in Circa Survivor, the mindset has to be, we have to have some teams in pocket for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, in particular, because 3 of those teams both play on Christmas and Thanksgiving. So it really limits your options. So trying to stay away early, even though it's only week 3, trying to stay away from road teams. At least my perspective looking at it is staying away from road teams, trying to stay away from divisional games. Even though Miami, the Bills won on Thursday night, but it was a close game and it was a tight game going into the fourth quarter. Divisional games, teams always get up for it and they know each other very well. Then it's making sure you stay away from bad scheduling spots. We've already discussed the scheduling spot for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And yes, they look attractive playing at home. They played well the first 2 weeks, but a bad scheduling spot on they host the Philadelphia Eagles the following week in week 4 and playing a bad Jets team. Sometimes those smell like recipes for disaster. Same thing with the Packers going on the road to a non-conference team in the Cleveland Browns. So, all right, well, now what do we have of teams at home looking at some of the bigger spreads? And I don't really look at the spreads. I just look at the matchups. I don't know. The number doesn't concern me to say, well, they're the biggest spread on the board, or maybe they're a 7-point spread. That's got to be in consideration. I look more so early in the season, fellas, is looking at, all right, we have Seattle at home. They're matching up here, and they're having to play against a really bad Saints team who's had 2 games at home. They've been somewhat competitive, but still can't finish in the fourth quarter, can't make kicks. We've seen that kicker miss multiple kicks in the first 2 weeks. So looking at Seattle, when would be a better time to take Seattle other than this week right now playing the lowly Saints? I can't find a better matchup to say, well, maybe down the road we keep Seattle in pocket. I don't want to play any division games. It's such a tough division, competitive division, Brady, in the NFC West. So I don't want to play any of those home games. You want to play against Houston and that defense on a Monday night? I think I'd pass on that one. You want to play Minnesota down the road? That's not until Sunday, November 30th. So that's way down in week 13. I think to me, this is the best spot on the schedule for Seattle to be able to play in Survivor, Brady.
And of course, Circa Survivor, you have to have 20 different teams. And that's a big chunk of the league. And Seattle, probably one of the top 20 teams in the league. So you're probably going to have to use those folks from the Pacific Northwest at some point. It's a very interesting week. I talked about public perception and what we have a very early, superficial idea of who these teams are. We really don't know a whole lot yet. We'll know more and more as the weeks go by. And we've had such success in Survivor over the first 2 weeks. It feels like maybe we'll get some carnage this week. Then you think about, a little FOMO here. I should have used all of our entries with the Bills on Thursday night. But then again, you're going to want a team like the Bills later on this season, who has a very easy schedule, by the way. You look at these games, we're talking about Seattle hosting the Saints. We're talking about the Buccaneers hosting the New York Jets, the Packers hosting the Browns, the Falcons are visiting the Carolina Panthers. It's like trying to thread the needle here. The favorites look like the team that should win, but it feels like the dogs are going to cover. And Mike, that has me going nuts on who to pick for Survivor, because we all know when the dog covers, they typically win the game outright. I mean, and that's the thing too. There's probably going to be a lot of people that have Team A in their Survivor pick, and they have their opponent against the spread, on the other card. I mean, it really is a crazy week out there, Mr. Pritch.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think if you have multiple entries too, Do you shove all in on one team or do you sprinkle it across the board here? Which I think that's going to happen. I mean, Kansas City, there's people thinking, okay, at some point, Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City is going to get right. But remember, Super Bowl losers, they struggle, right? They struggle. And we can see that roster is going through some transition. There's some guys chirping a little bit about older guys in particular chirping about, not performing, but those older guys aren't performing at a high level either. There's evidence of that throughout the league. Seattle up and coming, Tampa Bay. Again, I'll mention that division. They're just a bunch of underachievers. This gets tougher and tougher from a survivor standpoint. And we'll probably see people shove all in on Seattle. I think that's going to happen just because of the home field advantage and because people are fading the Saints at this point. What James mentioned too, this is probably the perfect time to play a team like that. So that's the most attractive situation when you evaluate it. But that's why Survivor is the best contest in the world right now. I mean, it has everybody intrigued.
Yeah, and I also don't necessarily like to be on the most popular choice. I tend to want to be in the minority, but you're right. I think it feels like, especially in Circa Survivor, that Seattle is going to be very popular this week. We turn to a big one, the Chargers and the Broncos, next.
San Diego is home to Wolfpack Hospitality Restaurants, located in beautiful La Jolla. Stop by Cove House, Shore Rider, and Dough Mama Pizzeria on your next trip. Visit Cove House, a top 100 brunch in California, or Shore Rider, serving up margaritas, fish tacos, and a vibe that will make you feel like a regular in no time. For a slice of New York-style pizza with a California twist, it's Dough Mama Pizzeria, where the wings and pizza draw compliments from around the world. Go to wolfpackhospitality.com, and we will look forward to seeing you at Cove House, Shore Rider, and Dough Mama Pizzeria. When the football contest crew isn't busy dominating the field and making plays that leave opponents in the dust, they're doing something just as exciting. They're playing My Vegas Slots. It's a top-ranked, free-to-play mobile app that lets you earn valuable real-world rewards from amazing partners like MGM Grand, Bellagio, and Norwegian Cruise Line. You can score hotel stays, great meals, show tickets, and more just for playing. Download My Vegas Slots today from your favorite app store. And if you're anything like Brady, James, and Mike, we know you're going to love it. That's a winning play you won't want to miss.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Brady Kannon, Mike Pritchard, and James Salinas with you. And we have made our way into the afternoon slate of games for Sunday. We begin in Los Angeles, where the 2-0 Los Angeles Chargers will host the 1-1 Denver Broncos. This is the third straight division game for Jim Harbaugh and those Lightning Bolts, and they have looked awful impressive as of late. The Broncos, kind of had one stolen from them last week in Indianapolis, but a good matchup here. Two very good defenses, two good quarterbacks, both played at Oregon. Familiar coaches with one another, a good matchup indeed, indicated by the short point spread. Now, we do have a discrepancy. Chargers laying 2.5, James, at Circa in the Circa Million contest. And in the Westgate Super Contest, the Chargers are laying 3 points.
Brady, you said two good quarterbacks. I think there's a lot of fans here in Denver that would beg to differ with the latter when it comes to the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix. The new nickname, Pritch, you talked about it in the very first segment of the show. Hey, what are your guys' nicknames? Here's the new nickname going around Denver circles, at least for fans. And, I'm not a fan. I could care less whether the Broncos win or lose unless I'm betting on them. And then that's who I'm a fan of, whoever I'm betting on that particular week. But it is no longer Bo Nix. It is Bo Picks, considering the amount of interceptions he's thrown in his short career. We talked about that before. From last year is carried over into this year. Now he's already had 4 turnovers, 3 of those being interceptions. And what's interesting about those interceptions is been very aggressive. I think Sean Payton has always been a very aggressive play caller, sometimes arrogant play caller to that degree. But Bo Nix wanting to be the gunslinger and take some shots and maybe some pressure in his sophomore season coming out because of the high expectations for the Broncos this season. Didn't have those expectations last year. And now you're going to go up against the defense here in the Chargers that I think it's been really interesting since Harbaugh took over, and in particular, defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. Since they took over last year, 69% of their defensive snaps have been in zone coverage, but it's not just the typical, hey, it's a cover 4, you're playing quarters or maybe a cover 3 here and we'll make them take the top off the defense, which they can't. it's been a lot more match coverage because of players like Derwin James and some of the talent that they have on that defensive side of the football in that back seven, Pritch. And I think from that standpoint here, thinking from a coaching perspective, last week, I thought that Vance Joseph got out-coached by the Colts and Shane Steichen with their offensive game plan going into that matchup. I wonder on the other side here, Pritch, with Vance Joseph now having to readjust, because I didn't see any adjustments last week against the Colts. About the other side with Hayton now having to try to find ways for Bo Nix, not Bo Picks, and at least not yet. We'll see what happens on Sunday. But for Bo Nix to be able to adjust where he struggled against zone defense, and he's going to see plenty of different match zone coverages against Jesse Mentor's defense of the Chargers this weekend.
Yeah, adjustments are so important. Everybody knows your scheme. Everybody knows your tendencies at this point. And that's what's happening to Bo Nix. Where this guy is trying to squash a narrative that he can't throw the ball vertically down the field, and I think Sean Payton, with his ego, has bought into that narrative as well. What they do best is the slip screens and the short passing game, the precision passing game, and then get into some play action situations and take advantage that way. But if you are not executing from a passing standpoint, okay, where's your running game? And right now, you look at the Broncos, they're respectable with their running attack. I think there's an axe to grind with Dobbins and everything, and with his former team and all that. But the Chargers are physical. I was at the game on Monday night against the Raiders here in Las Vegas, and that's one of the things that the Chargers hang their hat on, and Harbaugh will hang his hat on as well. Now, along with the physicality, Justin Herbert looks like he's arrived in a way that they need him to arrive. I mean, they're averaging, just about 270, almost 280 yards per game passing football. And they found ways to move Ladd McConkey around to open him up. He's solid for 5 catches at least, maybe 3 or 4 first downs. And then Keenan Allen as well. I mean, they're doing some good things with him, moving him around. And then Quentin Johnson, I mean, he's the guy that is featured, but they involve so many people on that offense. I mean, those are the featured players, but Justin Herbert is settled. He's happy. He's confident in offensive line. And he looks calm, cool, and collected back there in the pocket. And that's from a live perspective, being not on TV, but being in person. So they're facing another divisional opponent, which gets tough. I like the direction that Harbaugh has his team going in. And what you mentioned, James, there are some question marks with the Broncos, right? Bo Nix, is he going to be consistent? Is he going to evolve into a solid second-year quarterback, or is the league going to catch up to him and just make it that much more difficult for him? So if he starts turning the ball over again on the road and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you got a better team at home, I believe the Chargers will be a good team at home to go up against there on the road. So it's a dicey situation. Defensively is going to be interesting how they match up against Herbert in that passing game. They're not really running the ball that dominantly from a Chargers perspective, Brady, but that passing game is something that the Broncos need to pay attention to.
Well, Harbaugh was very successful against Sean Payton last season, winning and covering in both of their matchups with the Denver Broncos. I think this one is interesting, James. When I made my lines, I don't look at anything. I just kind of guess what I think it'll be. I made the Dallas Cowboys a 2-point favorite at Chicago, and the Bears actually opened up as a 1-point favorite. I was very surprised by that. Now the market has flipped. Dallas is a 1-point favorite pretty much across the board, and that's what we have here in both contests, James.
I don't know how. I think from the Cowboys perspective, you have a weapon out there. Basically, you get to midfield, you've got a weapon to put 3 points on the board in Brandon Aubrey. What a tremendous kicker he was. Saved our survivor last week, one of our entries that we had on Dallas. So that's a weapon right there, just to shorten the field, half the field, and you've got 3 points on the board. But I think the other side right now for the Bears, I mean, this is a team that there's a lot to clean up for Ben Johnson to have to come in. So it's not just trying to fix Caleb Williams. It's a bad culture there right now. These are guys that not a ton of talent either, but I think that's really where this is. I think Ben Johnson is coming in, not only trying to resurrect the offense, but really trying to set a new standard when it comes to professionalism and effort and attitude and those things. Those things take time. So it's more of a cleaning house right now, setting high expectations for guys like that. But The other side now with the matchup, back to the matchup, Brady, is with Dallas and that passing game, being able to go and exploit a Bears defense right now. Yes, they were embarrassed last week against Detroit, giving up over 50 points. But the other side, too, is I don't know who's going to go cover. They have no corners right now. There's not much of a pass rush for the Bears, and they have no corners. Everybody is banged up and out this week for the Bears. I think this is a game where Dallas is going to be able to sling it and put points on the board. I like Dallas.
When we come back, we will release all of our picks, both against the spread and in Survivor, right here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Stick around.
Want to gamble like the pros? At LasVegasAdvisor.com, you'll find the world's best how-to books, software, and strategy cards featuring blackjack, poker, video poker, and of course, sports betting, including the Stanford Wong Classic Sharp Sports Betting. Don't forget LVA's Member Rewards coupon book, offering discounts on dining and entertainment, including a buy one, get one for the awesome lobster buffet at the Palms, and more than $700 in gambling free play, match play, and bonus offers. Up your gambling game today at LasVegasAdvisor.com.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circa Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. It is time to get to our card, and we will start with the Westgate Super Contest. We're going to go with the Cleveland Browns getting 7.5, the Bengals getting 3 points at Minnesota, the Rams getting 3.5 at Philadelphia, the Jets getting 6.5 at Tampa Bay, and finally the Cowboys laying a point at Chicago. A lot of road teams on the card there in the Super Contest. In Circa Million, we'll go with basically the same. The Bengals, the Rams, the Jets, the Cowboys, but we're going to switch it up and take the Chargers, who were only laying 2.5 in the Circa Million. And gentlemen, we've got one entry home with the Buffalo Bills, our Circa Survivor Week 3 entry on Thursday night. We've got 2 selections left, and we're going to go all in with the Seattle Seahawks. Us and a lot of others will be rooting for the boys in the Pacific Northwest this week. Gentlemen, we've got a couple games left here on the board to cover in Week 3, and a big one, of course, Baltimore and Detroit, a huge one on Monday night. Also, a very interesting one in San Francisco, the home opener for the Niners. They have a ton of injuries going on. We're not sure if Brock Purdy will play. We have a lot of injuries on the Cardinals side of the ball, especially in that defensive secondary. This is 2-0 versus 2-0. Now we get a division matchup. I feel like the situation favors the Cardinals, but you are not getting the full field goal here. This one is tough to figure out. I'm going to skip to the next one. This is a marquee matchup for sure, Mike, on Monday night. The Ravens and the Detroit Lions, 4.5 is your number. We stayed away from it in any of the contests. What is your breakdown between these two juggernauts in the NFL 2025?
Well, even though the Lions were impressive last week, I mean, I still think they're still trying to figure it out, what they want to be offensively. You know, that I always bring this up, axes to grind, right? And certainly going up against Ben Johnson, Campbell and the gang, they had something to prove there, and they did it. They did a great job at home. Now going up against this animal, which is the Ravens. I mean, there's 2 elite teams. I mentioned this earlier in the show, Buffalo and Baltimore, I believe. And so Detroit, they're not an elite team. Like I said, I think they're still trying to figure it out. That's why the line is where it's at, in my opinion. Can the Lions get inside this? I mean, the Ravens match up well against a lot of teams, no matter what they do. And I think from the Lions standpoint, they're going to be tested big time with this Ravens offense and Lamar Jackson. So this is a tough one to play. I would side, I would lean towards the Ravens, but again, that number is just a tough one to feel confident about. But I feel confident about the Ravens. You know, if Survivor, perhaps, who knows? People might use that. We saw people use the Ravens last week in Survivor. So, but no, it's an intriguing game. The reason why it's on Monday night for sure.
I think, Brady, this matchup here, is this going to be a standalone game? It's just going to be a watch and assess and just be a fan of football, be a fan of NFL football. It's not a game I'm going to want to bet. That 4.5 number, it's a crooked number. Thinking about, well, Detroit does have the ability to throw the football, and I think for this Baltimore back 7, there's some injuries at the linebacker spot, so I think there's ways to exploit that for Detroit. I just don't know if Detroit's going to be able to get off get off the field defensively. That's going to be the key. But I think the back door could be open here for Detroit. So this is not going to be a game that it's not in our card for one. It's not going to be a game that I bet. Maybe live betting. Who knows? I don't think so. I think this is just going to be one of those money. Typically, by the time we get through everything that we do on Sunday and the highs and lows, not only with contests, but I do a lot of live betting during the games, I get kind of exhausted. And by the time I get to Monday, I kind of need just a little breather and just, hey, let's just watch some football. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the game. This is going to be a fun matchup to watch, but it's not a game I'm going to bet.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, James. And sometimes I feel the exact same way. I'm kind of done with the betting, and I just want to sit back and watch a good football game. And I think that's what we'll have here. I made the number 3. I was surprised to see Baltimore favored by 4.5. But again, I'm not running to the window to bet this game. It didn't make our card. Our card, once again, Browns, Bengals, Rams, Jets, and Cowboys for the SuperContest. Bengals, Rams, Jets, Cowboys, and Chargers for the Circa Million. And of course, in Circa Survivor, we're going with our remaining 2 entries. We're already in with the Bills with 1 in week 3. We're going with the remaining 2 entries on the Seattle Seahawks. That is going to do it for this edition of the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Gentlemen, another week in the books. Let's see if we can survive an advanced perception week. I don't know. We may finally get some carnage in Survivor Contest. We will see. That dichotomy of trying to bet the team to win, the favorite to win, and the dog to cover. Dicey territory out here in week 3. Good luck with your bets, everybody. We'll see you again next week right here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Thanks for tuning in to the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Don't you just love football? God, what a fun sport.
Subscribe today on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts to receive weekly alerts as soon as the show's available. Good luck with your contest selections.
Pay that man his money.
And we'll talk to you next week.